And good afternoon. Some once thriving businesses are nothing but charred husk of buildings after peaceful protests gave way to all-out chaos last night.
A grand jury decided not to charge a police officer, Darren Wilson, in the death of Michael Brown last August. At least 14 people were treated for injuries they suffered during the violence. Danielle Nottingham is in Ferguson with the latest.
Burned out businesses smoldered following a night of chaos in Ferguson, Missouri. Rioting broke out after a county prosecutor announced that 9 white and 3 African-American jurors decided not to indict police officer Darren Wilson in the shooting death of unarmed teenager Michael Brown in August. Their decision was based on 70 hours of testimony from about 60 witnesses. This morning, the mayor of St. Louis condemned the violence.
It really sets back the cause of social justice. Violence doesn't solve anything.
President Obama called for peaceful demonstrations, but the situation quickly got out of hand as roaming groups of demonstrators, some from outside the area, rampaged through the neighborhood, firing shots, breaking windows, and destroying businesses. Police responded with tear gas. CBS News correspondent Omar Villafranca ducked for cover as a demonstrator fired shots in the air close to where he was reporting. Many schools and businesses are closed in the Ferguson area today. The crowds have dispersed, but they're expected to return tonight. Officer Wilson released a statement through his lawyers thanking his supporters. Wilson testified that he opened fire on Brown after the 18-year-old physically overwhelmed him during a confrontation. Flowers and stuffed animals remain at the makeshift memorial where Brown was killed. Danielle Nottingham, CBS News, Ferguson, Missouri.
Now the U.S. Justice Department is conducting an investigation to determine if Wilson violated Brown's civil rights. Michael Brown's family could also file a wrongful death lawsuit against the police officer. Brown's parents are expected to hold a news conference shortly in St. Louis, and we will bring it to you live as soon as it happens.
And thousands of people all across the country took to the streets following that Missouri grand jury's decision not to indict the officer for killing Michael Brown. Protesters rallied from New York to California and many places in between. In Oakland, protesters walked into the lanes of an interstate and shut down the highway. People carried signs that read, "The people say guilty." At Missouri, Palestine, justice now. Protests in Seattle, Washington turned unruly during the night as protesters clashed with police there. Police say protesters threw bottles and rocks at officers and lit flares. And despite those violent protests, others held on to the idea of peace. Protesters gathered in the streets of Chicago this morning, and people could be seen holding signs at a peaceful gathering. More protests are planned around the country today.